One of the things about science is it's constantly changing its parameters. Read Koestler's brilliant study of the evolution of cosmology and how the Copernican revolution came about, and Kepler and Ptolemy and so on. And now, 100, 200 years from now, we'll have a very different understanding of the universe and its shape, size, and structure. That's just a given. And likewise, in every branch of knowledge, every branch of science, it's constantly evolving and transforming. And how they all interact, how these scientific realms interact, and provide an overview so that we can make sense of existence. What are we doing here? We enter the space of the question of the study of divine intelligence when we ask those questions. We can say, well, we're here because of God, but then what do we mean by God? Post Whitehead, we can talk about the process of God. God is the process underlying being, whereby intellect can interact with matter, can interact with the full dimensions of reality, and ultimately why? Well, the Hindus worked out this. It's called Leela, for the joy of the process, and for the love that we can share and experience together. So that's the kind of, we need to refine our God talk to take on board the findings of modern science. And I'm pleased to see some people are beginning to do that. What we can't do is allow these scientists to go on getting away with their... they become like prostitutes, getting vast amounts of cash to make weapons of mass destruction. It's like sadists running the planet. I don't want to pay people to make weapons, bioweapons. If Bregan is right and that's what they've been doing, well, I think it's absolutely scandalous. And no wonder the media don't want us to ask the awkward questions. What I notice is that nobody's asking this question about the link to peace and war. I'm a peace researcher. I have a duty to ask this question. And that's why I've written to the Canadian Prime Minister and other authorities, pointing out that under the Bioweapons Convention, the UN already has a thing in place if bioweapons are unleashed on the planet. We have a system for dealing with it. And these people thought this through in 1975. British diplomats thought this one, because we were trying desperately to stop this stuff happening. Well, people have got lazy since 1975. That was like 45 years ago. And sadly, people's guard has gone down because we're run by idiots. People like Boris Johnson, Trump, these people are not statesmen. These are narrow, and Netanyahu is part of this gang, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. These are, ignorant people verging on evil, because evil is caused by ignorance. These people are so ignorant, they're verging on evil, in my opinion. And so we're not getting any wise statesmanship from them. I'm looking to some of the more intelligent leaders on the planet. I think, you can work out who I might mean, like the German stateswoman Angela Merkel and others, or Macron in France seems quite intelligent, should be referring this matter to the UN Security Council to then mandate inspections of all the bioweapons capable labs on the planet. That's in the Bioweapons Convention. We have the right and duty to do that. And we, the people, have a duty to pressurize our governments elected to represent us to insist that this is done. So we can clear up who's been making, which boys have been making this stupid, toxic nonsense. And, of course, as a scientist trained in Popperian's skepticism, I will suspend judgment as to whether any of them have. Maybe they're going to inspect the labs and, no, we've just been doing innocent stuff. We've just been, polishing our test tubes and, looking at bats and things. No, we haven't been making weapons, sir. Well, okay, fine. Let's go and find out. So this is so important. So I haven't heard back. I haven't had contact yet. And I don't care. I put it out there and let them do the work. So I'm hoping the Canadian Foreign Ministry at the moment is desperately contacting the Security Council to action this inspection. And if not Canadians, then the French or the Germans or someone with a modicum of intelligence, Who should we be inspecting? Well, I think all of them. The evidence also, not just what Bregenz found, but there's another researcher in the Philippines whose work I've discovered this week. He seems pretty much on the ball. Romeo Quijano, a doctor, president of Pesticide Action Network in the Philippines, a toxicologist, a famous and important professor at the University of the Philippines in Manila, a city I know and love well. I've been there. I gave talks there at a conference organised by the International Association of University Presidents and UNESCO. We met at the University of Manila. Philippines is an amazing country. They're incredibly clever. And I love the cultural history of the Philippines. And this chap is jumping up and down saying, oi, he's blowing the whistle. I'll read from his thing. He says, the novel coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, that is threatening modern civilization today is a disaster that was bound to happen, mainly because of human folly. This is an inevitable consequence of the dominance of a neoliberal national security state doctrine with a military-industrial complex pushing for perpetual war and corporate globalization. This has devastated entire ecosystems, distorted medical science, and disempowered communities. Well, Romeo is not pulling any punches. That first paragraph is quite damning stuff, but I think true. This power elite doctrine is the root cause of the increasingly serious cases of emerging infectious diseases over the past 40 years or so, coinciding with the destruction of our ecosphere, gross disrespect to the intimate relationship between humans and the environment, and the reductionist thinking about infectious diseases and health. Despite the fact that scientific evidence shows clearly that viruses and other microbes are largely friends and have been playing a significant role in the evolution and survival of all life forms in our entire ecosystem, the power elite institutions and their agents have declared these microbes as mortal enemies that deserve to be eliminated. Microbes and their elements are in fact essential components of the biological human entity and perform critical physiologic functions that maintain homeostasis and a robust immune system. Rather than cultivating harmony and coexistence, most humans have declared total war against them. This belligerent attitude is also a result of a largely mistaken understanding of infectious disease and illness propagated by a reductionist medical paradigm, which fails to recognise that illness is in fact a disruption of the harmony between humans and their physical, chemical, biological, spiritual and social environment. Thus, the distorted, corporate-controlled medical science has pushed for mass vaccinations with the aim of total elimination, despite scientific evidence that mass vaccinations do more harm than good. Furthermore, the military-industrial complex have been for several decades converting and harnessing microbes as weapons of mass destruction of people perceived to be their enemies. So in those paragraphs, he's saying very much what another chap, Dr. Zach Bush, has been saying. I've been discovering this week, interviewed by an interesting, activist called Del Bigtree, and they've been saying pretty much the same thing. Zach can talk for hours about this. But this chap goes on to talk about bioweapons, right? It is logical to consider that a secret bioweapons program is a major proximal causative driving factor that created this coronavirus pandemic. There were in fact numerous clear warning signals that this was bound to happen, but these were ignored and nonchalantly dismissed. As early as 1970, a World Health Organization group of consultants in their comprehensive report on chemical and biological weapons noted that a, quotes, virulent mutant microbe could spread rapidly to produce an uncontrollable epidemic on a large scale, end of quotes. In addition, they warned that there was an ever-present risk of an accidental escape. Indeed, this prediction was prescient. A list of biolab accidents compiled by the Stop the Biolab movement in Boston, USA, showed that more than 50 biolab accidents from 1985 to 2007, occurring mostly in the US, included accidents involving the United States Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases, US AMRID. Despite the clear dangers to public health, the US federal government has dramatically increased US research and development activity and infrastructure focused on biological weapons agents. More than 24 large, new, high-containment research facilities were funded specifically to work with bioweapons agents, according to the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Quotes, when more dangerous research is performed by more people in more locations, there are simply more opportunities for significant biosafety or biosecurity breaches to occur. Worse, if the accident involves an agent, such as the 1918 influenza virus, which was reconstructed at the US Center for Disease Control in 2005, it could start a global pandemic, end of quotes. US AMRID itself recorded a total of 128 incidents occurring from just 2016 to 2018, with 7 incidents of potential biological exposures. Some risk of exposure to infectious agents and or toxins may have occurred and has resulted in precautionary medical surveillance of the personnel involved. On July 2019, the Center for Disease Control issued a cease and desist order to US AMRID after problems were found in its biosafety level 3 and 4 laboratories. The US AMRID, located at Fort Detrick, Georgia, is known to be the highly secretive epicenter of US bioweapons research, with a history of illicit human experiments and research on the production of genetically modified organisms for deployment as weapons of war. US military secret biolabs have in fact been most advanced in doing research on pathogenic microorganisms, including SARS and other coronaviruses. In 2018, the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, began spending millions on such research. Some of those Pentagon-funded studies were conducted at known US military bioweapons laboratories bordering China, and has resulted in the discovery of dozens of new coronavirus strains as recently as last April 2018. You can go on and read the rest of the text, but I think this is extremely scary, and I've researched this guy. He gives full footnotes to all these claims. I mean, this is not on your normal news channel, is it? But it seems to me that, and I'm interested as a peace researcher, that there is at least enough of a suspicion that this coronavirus pandemic is some kind of spin-off from a bioweapons research procedure that's been in place since, and according to the other chap, Breggin, well, since at least 2015, but actually, according to this chap from the Philippines, it's been going on longer. I think we've got the right to know, this is enough. Enough is enough. We're all on lockdown on the planet. We have rights. I mean, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to all of us. We have the right, I think the most precious right of all is the right to truth. the right to knowledge. It's what gives life meaning. If you've read that amazing book about concentration camp survivor, who survived, Man's Search for Meaning is his book. He was a famous psychiatrist. And he discovered the people that survived the concentration camps were the ones that could find meaning or create meaning. Those that just found this relentless oppression destroyed their souls from within. They died. They lost the will to live. Whereas he used to teach philosophy classes and keep people alive that way. You know, if you go, you can, whatever Nelson Mandela stayed alive in a little cell because his mind was active. And so the search for meaning is what keeps us alive. And therefore we have the right to know. So that's why I'm active as a peace scholar on this question of finding out about the militarization of bio-knowledge. And I'll keep at it, you know. But this is a planetary-wide dilemma we're facing. And we need collective action. And so please, you know, contact me, get involved, join my institute. The institute is the umbrella group that I do this campaigning work for. It's bringing together intellectuals, philosophers, scholars, academics who are interested in the bigger picture of peace on this planet and how we can work together collaboratively to challenge the monopoly that military academia has. You know, if you go and study at a conventional university or teach, you soon discover that the people doing all the sexiest research and getting the largest grants, they're all coming from the MOD or the Pentagon. I think that's wrong. You know, why should my psychology department at X college be doing research on how long people can stand being tortured? You know, that kind of stuff's going on. I used to be involved with a thing called Campaign Against Military Research on Campus, CAMROC. Why don't we have peace research centres in every university? Why is there still not one at the University of London? A proper one. As I argued for in my feasibility study, which I wrote way back in 1991, and which I've just republished this week, so that's another new text I've managed to find on electronic format and put it out there. It's scarily still prescient and relevant. Way back then in 91, I was calling for a peace research institute in London with a committee of the great and the good supporting the work, many of whom are dead now. And yes, there was research going on at the university in these kind of things. Imperial College was doing work with what is now Porton Down. Now they can say, well, it's preventative research, but it's borderline, you know, on the frontiers of military-related research. I think the best form of defence is actually to make peace. And I think we should invest some of, I've called for, reduction in military spending worldwide by 95% of its current levels. I'd like to see 95% of all military expenditure cut universally across the planet, and that money then put into social development work, culture, arts, employment creation, social security nets, health research as well. One of the things I've called for is doing this work on the World Health Organization. Many people are saying, you know, it's a corrupt organization. I don't think it is, and if you look at its founding treaty, it's very good. And the chap who's running it, Tudros, this chap from Eritrea, clever man, he has a PhD from a British university. I don't like the people that demonise him, but I do think that people like that get stuck in a certain modality and they need to sometimes, you know, look outside the box. I would like to see the World Health Organization renamed the World Healing Organization. And I also have campaigned and believe that the National Health Service should be renamed the National Healing Service. Because to me, healing is the active process that actually exists. Health, you know, as a concept doesn't exist. I mean, I've got a cough, you know, do I have coronavirus? I don't know, I hope not. I mean, you know, Will I be alive next week? Well, I don't know. I hope so. What I'm trying to do is work on self-healing. If I have got it, then it's a mild dose. I hope, touch wood. We're all in this scary situation. We don't know. You get a slight cold symptoms and you think you're dying. This is a scary and ridiculous situation. So we need a world healing organisation that I can ring up and say, what should I do? And we need a national healing service that doesn't reify health as this sort of abstract thing that you can deliver, but realises that healing is a very subtle, complex interaction between a doctor, a nurse, and a patient, and spirit. There's always that fourth element, I know, from my work as a nurse. If you have a totally reductionist, materialist paradigm which rules out the role of the spirit, then I'm afraid you're not on the Florence Nightingale team. Proper nurses like her and proper scientists actually realise there is more to heaven and earth than conventional philosophy can argue. So I think this demonisation of nurses that wear crosses and stuff, is totally wrong. I always used to take patients down to the chapel in hospitals where I worked, and they love it because it gives them a sort of inner peace, which then helps with their healing process. So, yeah, two things, okay? World Healing Organization. Let's get the bureaucracy working on that. And by the way, any nation, every nation is a member of the World Health Organization. They can all propose this, put it to the vote, and it goes before committees and all that. I think it would be a signal that, the World Health Organization realizes it's got to change a few things. I would like to see alternative medicine, indigenous medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, herbal medicine, these kind of things, treated as important things in their own right that might be part of the healing mix. I've read that the Chinese managed success against the virus using a lot of natural Chinese medicine. Is that true? I don't know. Can I ring the World Health Organization and find out? No, because they'll say that's all bogus and nonsense. Well, that paradigm shift is needed. We need to take on board all the different healing modalities and procedures on the planet, including the spiritual healing as well, which is another important adjunct to the work of healers. People like Harry Price in Britain and Harry Edwards have documented success with spiritual healing, and it should be part of the pharmacopoeia. So a good doctor would know about all that, plus all the details of allopathic scientific medicine, and would know which to intervene with when. It would also partly depend on the patient and their kind of worldview and so on. So there we are. I've been to the place in Kos where Hippocrates founded the first medical centre, and it was attached to the temple of Asclepius. Asclepius is the god of healing, right? He also brings dreams. And you'd go to the temple of Asclepius on Kos, and you'd have your dreams analysed. So they would heal. I think my dream about the meaning of the cross is a sort of planetary healing dream. And I'm sharing it on that basis. Okay, so blessings. I'm going to finish with a poem, because I'm a poet at the end of the day as well as everything else, and I love poetry, and sometimes it can say stuff that mere prose can't. So I'm going to read a poem I wrote some time ago. Actually wrote this 11 years ago. And I wrote it at Avebury on my birthday, May the 8th, which has just happened, by the way. I was then teaching in Carl at a beautiful Anglican all-girls school called St Mary's. It's a great school. I don't suppose, well, some of the staff may remember me, but I think all the girls that I taught would have gone into high-powered jobs now. I met Theresa May there giving a talk to the Sixth Form Philosophy Club. So they're quite high flyers at St Mary's, and I was very happy to teach there, clever girls. And then I would sometimes go in the evening to Avebury, which is just down the road, which is one of my favourite spiritual centres in the world. And I was given the Peace Sword of Britain as the Druid of the Peace Druid of Britain, which is here behind me, in a ceremony at Avebury. which if you've not been, when you get out of lockdown, go to Avebury. It's a sanctuary, a Druid sanctuary from thousands of years BC. Amazing place. It's a bit more accessible and friendly than Stonehenge, which is more masculine in its energy. Avebury is more feminine. Anyway, so here I am at Avebury on my birthday 11 years ago, and this is the poem I wrote. And I was sitting in a particular part of Avebury where you can hear, there's lots of trees with amazing birds that come, rooks and others, and they sit up there and they squawk and they sing, and it was sunset, and it was very moving. So this is the poem that came out. It's called Bird Songs at Avebury. Wondrous tuning, squawking, turning, yearning, chatter, soulmates, conversations, feathered friends. What do you tell me? What do I see you saying? Local news. It's this place, it's that worm, that spot. The view from there, see, go up, look from there. Occasionally, one comes from further away. A different tremor, like a rumbling of far distant thunder. It's no different with us poets. You can hear the levels of sound all the way up to the apex, to the dove's soft coo of May. You can, yes, love, permission granted, do, you can, you may, can do. Occasionally, one comes who only says yes, whose yes opens the door between this universe and the next. That's where birds sing from. They've been lit up by that light forever. They go back and forth like braves on a spirit journey, flying between worlds. The same things they told to Solomon. From it he built the temple. Their sounds resound the lyre strings between visible and invisible realms. It's their pure seeing, saying. It's their thinking, singing. To honour the journey and the light, where they come and go from. So I'm just going to open the door. Okay. Because there's some birds playing outside. And they seem to want to join in the poetry reading. Since the poem is about them, it's only polite. At sunset, they go up in one great ascent. Starlings go so deep into love, they loop around each other in impossible Moebius strips, defying geometry, to dance their magic out. Electrons also dance to make up our own body shapes. Persistently. The strangest thing is that as we grow old and die, we ever think we're something solid. We're a shimmering electron cloud, held together by our inmost songs. We dance on both sides, where we're born and where we die. We dance in both places like two beating wings on one adventure. Reverse worlds pinioned, touching, mirror-like, one sole bird. flying beyond time and locality, squawking occasionally. It's no different with us poets. The craft is in the hearing, in the listening that we source within us. That doesn't change. Bridge of worlds, magician of Maya, muse of minds, man of many meanings, mantras of Atman. Now, it's the call of the eagle, long ways off, mountain-born. Listen. So thank you for listening. I'm going to talk to you again next week, and I hope everyone has a good week, and let's crack this system. Let's dig the deep well down to Dharma.